Hey guys, what's up? Just wanted to address some stuff before we start this awesome episode. Couple things happened in the first about 27 minutes or so. There was an audio issue with Mark's side of the mic. That's my fault. We recorded and I missed it too late. But I had this awesome guy in the podcast community named Dave Campbell. He actually reached out to me and helped me fix that recording so it sounds a little better. It's not perfect, but it sounds way better than when I sent it off to him. So, Dave, I can't thank you enough for your support on that. It really means a lot to me. Secondly, this episode is just awesome. Me and Mark catching up, and he really kind of dives in on his long tenure in the Army, which was awesome. But third, um, I know, guys, I've been struggling with the past couple weeks with audio issues and stuff, trying to get it right. But I have good news. I got some actual quality podcast recording equipment headed. Should all be here by Wednesday. So for my next couple interviews, they should be spot on. And I'm actually getting the hang of this now. So we're looking pretty solid. Thank you all for your immense support. Um, Please like, subscribe, and listen. Tell your friends. Tell them if they want to listen, or even just tell them if they wanted to come and tell me their story. And I appreciate all of it. Thank you all so much. Here's the podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. You're on Why We Serve with Benjamin Lake. Here today, I got very special guest. Someone I work with pretty close up here, summer first class, Mark Wise. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I was fortunate enough to come up here and talk to him. It's actually my first remote podcast, so we're going to see how it goes. Mark is currently, serving active duty over on Fort Leonard Wood. I've gotten to know him pretty well over the past year, and we're just going to kind of dive in on Mark's journey, why he joined the Army, and what keeps him going or not going, throughout his career thus far. So, Mark, we're kind of going to just dive in right now. Just tell the people about, kind of what your upbringing a little bit, just a little back history, and then kind of what brought you to the decision to join the Army.
Well, thank you very much, Ben, for having me on your podcast. It's my honor. Seriously. So I'm Mark Wise, originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Had a really normal childhood growing up. Born in '85, so you can call me a '90s kid. Had two great parents, one brother. Really normal. I guess maybe abnormal compared to what the kids do today. Played outside, rode a bike, played sports. Did the normal childhood thing. I don't want to go too deep into it. I guess I'll fast forward a little bit. Graduated high school, and I went off to college in 2004, fall of 2004. So I'm 18 years old, and I'd never been away from home. So there was a lot of drinking, a lot of freedom.
A lot of irresponsibility going on.
A lot of fun, irresponsibility.
Yeah.
It's probably an oxymoron, isn't it?
No, it's awesome.
And basically went in as a good student and came out as a dirtbag with a 1.6 GPA in the spring of 2005. And that's when my mom talked to me, and she was like, "Hey, Mark, I'm not paying for D+ grades, so you need to figure out what you're going to do." So summer, fall 2005, I moved home, enrolled in community college, got a job at a restaurant, and still partying, doing my thing. But I think I raised my GPA to like 2.4.
Oh, yeah.
So I was killing it. Met a girl, got in a fairly serious relationship. I mean, as serious as you can be at 19 years old.
19,
right?
Yeah, it's pretty locked down at that point. I'll be with her forever, obviously.
Of course, this is my sweetheart, right?
Yeah.
It's who I'm gonna live my life with. I don't want to get too in depth, but we did the things men and women do, and in the spring of 2006, found out she was pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
So I was scared to death. I was working like barely minimum wage, living with her, and it's like, damn, what do I do? So decided.
Does your mind just like, because I've obviously gotten my wife pregnant multiple times, but, we're together in those moments like that. Were you truly like, do you think just like terrified, or are you just like, shit, I got to do something?
Is it okay to swear on this?
Yeah. So yeah, you're good.
I was like,
fuck, yeah,
man.
yeah.
I was fucking terrified because like I was just living my best life, as the kids say these days, having a good time, but I was terrified. So I talked to her. I was like, well, I'll join the Army Reserves.
Yeah.
I don't know why I decided the reserves. And so that takes us like July of 06, August of 06. I come to Fort Leonard Wood and start my Army journey.
Yeah. Do you think, I wonder how that works too, because I wonder if it's like you think it's the reserve, so I still get the discipline, but I get to come home still. Or if it's like
something like that.
Yeah. But when she was pregnant and then you were about to ship out when?
This is July 06, August 06.
Okay.
Just real quick, I'm not going to mention her name. We are on good terms, but we're not together.
Yeah.
I'll get to my wife of 12 years, my kids a little bit later on. But we lost the baby, and in the course of me being here, I lost the relationship. So got a Dear John and
at basic and stuff.
I think it was AIT. That's what we did.
Cringe.
What did we call it back then?
Was it OSA for you guys? Yeah. Okay.
So like 6 months basically when you count like being held over.
Yeah. For those listening, I'm sorry, I got to do admin notes every now and then. Those that are listening and don't know some Army terms and stuff, I've kind of gone over them. OSET is one station unit training, so it's like your basic and your AIT are just all one lump sum. It's just one continuous training event. Kind of sucks. It's kind of good though. You build that relationship with the people training you for much longer, but it's a little rough sometimes.
Yeah, it was the last hard, like, initial training in the Army. It's what we always say.
Yeah.
Like, I was just talking to one of the holdovers, Dave. He's like, sorry, my basic was so hard. I'm like, man, I thought mine was the hardest. But, so what's that put us at? That puts us at February of 07.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nothing really to go back to in my mind. I'm 21 years old. Oh, yeah, I turned 21 at AIT.
Okay. Great. So are you already, you were in the reserves already at this point? Still in the reserves. Okay.
So thinking what I want to do, and if you remember at that time, Iraq was raging. We had just started the surge.
Yeah, in 06, yeah, it started getting real nasty right then.
Real nasty. So I decided to go active duty, and it was this simple. I went to a recruiter and said, hey, I just came out of basic AIT. I want to be active. Literally within a week, I had orders to Fort Hood, Texas.
Yeah. Were you excited for that change, you think? Or were you like, this is sketchy, but I ain't really got nothing going on?
I was just in it for the journey. Yeah. I had lost, in my mind, my world was over. The girl I loved had left me. And
yeah.
Well, fuck it. Let's see what happens next. So I took my 1997 Toyota Avalon, which my mom gave me, drove from Pittsburgh to Fort Hood, and really started my active duty journey. And
you just started off the bat. You didn't have to go back for training, anything. You just jumped right into the active role.
Basically, I was complete. I was a full-fledged 74 Delta E2 at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you're just going from the reserve component to active, and we're going to put you needs of the Army. And needs of the Army was the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Hood, Texas.
Damn. So I think that's a big thing for people listening and stuff. Mark, obviously, it's not a traditional path to get to active duty. He had this starting place of, I'm going to join the reserves, and that's going to get me rolling. But then at this point, he finds that, that drive of, I really got to figure out something. I want to do something with my life. I'm going to get going. I think all the people I've talked about, I don't think it's necessarily that we're running from things, but it's we're running to things. Like, we're trying to get somewhere in our lives because we know we're capable of more, but we don't really have the confidence or anything. So it's like that active duty life is just such a strong push of, well, come find out. Come get this work. Come find out what's going on. And it's exciting, but it's also like a really scary diving board. Like, and then you get there and it's, you know, it's just crazy. I just think that's cool that you initially went in like reluctant kind of, or like just going a reserve route. And then boom, you're like, no, I want to go see the world in the middle of the shittiest part of the war, probably.
I don't think I was thinking. Then I was 21 years old and young and dumb. And I'll say this. When I got to Fort Hood, I thought I was going to the newly established 48th Chemical Brigade. I'm like, oh, I'll go be a 74
Yeah.
No, I got sent to a line unit, combat arms unit, scouts, 19 deltas, tankers, 19 kilos, mortar section. I mean, line troops. I was with NCOs. They were going on their third deployment to Iraq. And it was a huge culture shock from where I was, even at Fort Leonard Wood. Got the dog shit smoked out of me as a private. Just like the typical private things. I wasn't good or bad. And I'll just say this. I've always considered myself very average. Just being honest. Stayed out of trouble. I did my job. I mean, I got into the typical private trouble, which we can get into a little bit later. Yeah. But I was just there. I did my job and was just there for the ride. And I thought, I'm going to do this 3-year hitch, get out, go back to college. But we can, I guess, this will lead us further into the podcast.
Do you think, as that first stint there, your morale and like motivation to stay in, would you say it declined steadily, or did it kind of go up and down? Or did it go up?
It went up and down. So I did a 15-month deployment to Iraq with their ACR. That was my first deployment, one of 6. Was that a wake-up call? Absolutely. I mean, do you mind if I talk about the deployment?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So November 2007, we left Fort Hood. January of 2009, we came back to Fort Hood.
Holy fuck.
And 15 months in Iraq, in a line unit, that really, for me, I saw how good and bad the Army can be. I had a really great first sergeant. I don't think he'll ever listen to this, or maybe he might. First Sergeant Carlos Lucelle. He was hard, but he was fair.
Yeah.
And when I say hard, like really hard, he grew up in El Salvador, was in the Army down there, did some stuff in the 80s, then came up. He spent a long time at Fort Bragg, and that's kind of what got me on to like, hey, I want to go jump out of planes at some point. And I just always remembered him telling me, like, Wise, if you go to Fort Bragg, you'll be okay. So got in actually really good deployment shape back then. I'll say, fortunately, I was single. I know a lot of guys I was with, unfortunately. And when I say guys, by the way, you have to realize this was 2007, 8, 9, so combat arms was all males. We had a few females come through our outpost, support personnel, but it was all guys. And, I mean, a lot of marriages got destroyed in that 15 months, which I guess maybe could be another podcast in itself. But,
I think, like, that's a big thing people should understand. There's goods and bad to, like, the deployment side, because you're like me, I was the opposite, right? I had a wife with she was pregnant, and we had a 1-year-old child, and I left for 12 months. And you get over there, and you're more, mine wasn't as heavy as yours, obviously. I was at the tail end of the war, and I was doing staff stuff. So mine, it's a monotonous day every day. There's minimal risk. There's some, but nothing to be terrified over. But you get over there, and you have, like, your mission. That's your job over there. And it's kind of what you always, I don't know if you wanted it, but it's always what your job was supposed to be, going and supporting the war. But you have so much going on at home. And these guys that went in 2005 to 2012 or whatever, like when the craziness was going on, really from 2002 to like 12, it was just chaos. And they still all had these lives going on at home. I can't fathom trying to deal with that shit. Like, your mind is just losing it.
I don't want to get too far off track right now, but I just want to shout out to our battalion Sergeant Major Bo. I've had a lot of talks with her about deployment. So her and her husband were actually in the initial invasion, which is 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
To think, right? They had a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old at the time. And I talked to her about that, over the past 15, 16 months that I've worked for her. And I just said, how did you and your husband and your kids survive this? And like, she doesn't know at this point, but she's still going strong. So
do you think it's like a blur to her, or is it like she's just like, I don't know how we did it, but we did it?
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line. And that's what, for a lot of people listening, when it comes down to it, is it's not, the Army doesn't put you in shitty situations just because they feel like it. It's just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
So coming in, if you don't figure it out quick, like the mission's going to come first almost all the time. Unfortunately, family comes second, and that's just how it is. But you just have to push through, and what you're going to find is there's really good people who are going to be to your left and right that you never would have thought about in civilian life who are going to help you, and you're going to help them. And that's what really has gotten me sitting here right now with you.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel during that 15 months that your mental health, morale, all that, how do you feel it was like progressing through the 15 months?
Up and down. So my troop was fortunate enough. We didn't have any KIAs. We had a couple wounded in action.
Okay.
In fact, I think Staff Sergeant Saucedo, he got shot, but he's actually still in right now. He's a master sergeant. Great guy. Our sister troop, Apache, they had 3 KIAs. We had a few more KIAs throughout the squadron. And then most of the regiment was up north in Missoula, so they lost a decent amount of people, which, unfortunately, may those guys rest in peace. But we were sort of the tail end of the surge. We had it rough, but not as bad as the people like in 06, the beginning of the surge. So
yeah. That
kind of wraps up, I think, the deployment. I'll just say this is a 74 Delta. When I went to the recruiter's office, they showed me pictures of labs and like these awesome vehicles called the Foxes. Yeah, I didn't do any of that. I was on details, radio guard, if they needed an extra driver, a gunner. Like, I did it all. Nothing really glorious or glamorous, but I did a lot of regular work, which showed me a lot about what you have to do as a soldier. You might come in for one reason, hey, I'm going to be a cook, but back in those days, you had cooks on Route Irish, who were manning machine guns in convoys.
It's badass.
Just getting it in. So.
Yeah. I think we kind of skimmed over that, but Mark is the same MOS or same job as me, right? MOS 74 Delta. It's CBRN, which is Chem, Bio, Rad, and Nuke Specialist, which is a fancy way for saying like if the bad guys start using chem weapons, bio stuff. The big ones everyone thinks of is the gas attacks back in World War I and anthrax for bio, and then obviously nuclear bombs. But like the reason for that job is it's a contingency in case stuff goes down. So we're utilized a lot as like other shit, not our primary job, because you typically can't train on those primary jobs every single day, especially in units that are not CBRN based.
It's not their priority.
No. And it's a very hard sell to people. So to make yourself, which I can see Mark, he does that very well. He is able to put on a different hat and do those other jobs well. And that's what kind of makes you stand out against your peers and make you viable to those other teams.
I'll say this, since you bring that up, Ben. If you look at, so in July I'll hit 17 years. Out of those 17, only 2 have been in an actual line, like Force Comm Chem Unit, 21st Chemical Company. The rest of the time I was in armored units. I was in a brigade support battalion in the 82nd. And I spent a long time in 3rd Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg. So I wouldn't say I've had a typical career. I've got to experience some different parts of the Army, but your normal 74 Delta, they probably wouldn't have had the same career I have. And that's no fault of my own or the Army's own, it's just kind of how things shook out.
Mm-hmm. So we're at the end of this deployment. How are you feeling at the end when you get home?
I actually wasn't feeling too good because I was, so you go from, like you see my office right now, there would be about 6 dudes in a room this size.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't a big deal.
No.
you just got used to living close to people. You respected people's privacy, you respected their space, but at the same time, you just got used to being around people constantly. Going back to Fort Hood and like immediately not being in that environment, I felt, I don't mean to sound kind of lame, but lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in a relationship. I had the, not to get too into the weeds, one night stand relationships.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anything close, and started drinking a lot, and really missing that
camaraderie.
Yeah, because there's some guys, they got in relationships, they got immediately married when they got back. I didn't dive off that platform, but I really missed it.
Yeah, I think that's typical of anybody. If you're in that situation for that long, it's like what's that called? Nightingale syndrome or whatever. You like just crave it at that point because it is, and it's like it's so regimented and daily. I think your body just gets so used to it, it just craves it at that point, you know?
Yeah, Sebastian Junger talks about this in his book Tribe, which you just read.
Yeah, just read a really good book.
You're around people, and I'll say this to kind of add on to your theme. There was people I didn't like and couldn't stand, but you would still go out of your way to make sure they were safe and taken care of and protected. Even the people you fucking hate. You don't want to see anything bad happen to them. And I know that might sound counterintuitive, but you just looked out for each other. And that's something I don't think that, well, let me go back. I think veterans have a hard time dealing with that. And when they transition out is that, you really lose that sense of belonging.
Yeah. That book, Mark gave me this book, Tribe. He was talking about, it was a great quick read. It's an awesome book. It talks about, tribalism and humans and how basically we're designed to be like that. But like to Army's point of it, being around people is how we are naturally supposed to be, that close-knit friendship group. It is so strong that when you rip someone out of that, you're like, what is happening? Loneliness, depression, anxiety, just these feelings of want and need for others. You're going to have that because it's in our DNA.
I've been close. I don't want to say I've been close. Been on the cusp, but like from what I've heard, it's like going through a divorce almost, where you're in this relationship, then it's like suddenly it's over and it's like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
No, my wife and I, and I'll get to that point of my life and career, but my wife's been, godsend, and I guess we could just push that to like. So I PCS to Fort Bragg in June of 2009. Go to the 21st Chemical Company. They used to be in the 82nd, then they lost jump status, and then we fell under an EOD unit. So I was there for about a year, and then my wife showed up, Kate.
Was she in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know
that. So she came to the unit. I had been on and off in relationships. Some funny stories we could talk about offline, Ben. And went up to my wife, well, Kate at the time, started talking to her and asked her out, and it was a really romantic first date. So we went to Anthony's Pizza in the mini mall.
That's
Fort Bragg.
That's so beautiful.
And then we went to see a movie in Fayetteville, and
it's the most private date ever. That's awesome.
What do the kids say now? You gotta shoot your shot. So walking out of the movie theater, I went to like grab her hand to hold her hand, and she was like, "No," and I was like, "Well, fuck, that really took a shit." And she's like, "Here, hold my hand like this," and she grabs my hand and just like, "Here, give me your hand, man. This might be a little weird." And she was just like, "Here, hold my hand like this."
Oh,
and I'm like,
"It's a handshake."
Sorry, bro, that was super weird. That was August 8th. 2010, and that's when we like to say we got married. Because we've been together ever, besides deployments, every day fucking since.
That's awesome. That's so sweet and innocent, like the beginning of that, And then, how many years?
So it'll be 13.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
So we're going to jump about 5 months ahead to January of 2011. Kind of like things happen. We were together, we were happy, and then she's like, "Hey, I'm not feeling too good." I'm like, "Well, you never, you're healthy. Like, well, I bet you're pregnant." And she like had this mortified face. She's like, "No way." So I went to Smoke Bomb Hill Shopette and bought a fucking pregnancy test because those you can just get those from the shop.
Yeah, you just grab them.
I don't know if they still have those like that. It's like, here, take this. I was in her barracks room. I mean, she was in mine or I was in hers. She goes into the bathroom, and I shit you not, within 5 minutes I hear. She comes out. She's like, "I'm pregnant and you're going to leave me." That's a terrible... My wife doesn't sound like that, by the way. I'm like, "I'm not going to leave you." She's like, "What are we going to do?" I'm like, "Well, we'll have a kid and it'll be good." So, fast forward a few more months. I leave 21st Chem and I get a spot in the Chemical Decon Detachment, 3rd Special Forces Group, where I would stay for 6 years. In this time, this is like spring 2011, I asked my wife, I was like, "Hey, will you marry me?" She said no.
Ooh.
I'm like, "Oh shit." She's like, "Oh, I want to be together. I don't want to be married." I'm like, "Cool." So like 2 months go by and we're driving somewhere to look at an apartment. She's like, "Will you marry me?" And I'm like, "You just said no." She's like, "Well, I changed my mind." So she asked me to marry her. Real romantic, huh?
Yeah.
So we got married May 2011, May 9th. So we're almost in April. So yeah, next month it'll be 12 years. We say 13 years
because the dating and stuff. Yeah.
So I get to 3rd group, and I always wanted to jump out of airplanes. So November 2011, I finally go to airborne school, which I thought was really fun and actually easy. Did that. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, Ben, because these years kind of blend. 2012, started getting ready for deployment to Afghanistan. February of 2013, do my first deployment with Group to Afghanistan, supporting operations there with our Special Forces Group. That takes us February to July of 13. And by the way, when it comes to making rank, I was initially slow in the Army. So August 2012, let me back up. July of 2012, I was a specialist. Yeah. December 2013, I was a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you kind of...
the math ain't math, and it's so weird. I got promoted pretty quick too, and it's just like sometimes the promotions you're just like, how did I get up here? Yeah. How did this happen?
Yeah, so I was at E4. I'm gonna sound kind of like a shitbag for like 5, almost 6 years.
I think it was pretty common. It was common back then though too.
Yeah.
Now it's pushed so hard. Yeah. You have to make rank, but that back then it was like, do your job. You'll get it eventually, you know.
Yeah. I'll say this, and I do really want to hit this. As a support person in special operations, for me, it was the best time, hands down, of my Army career. I was treated great. I got to go to schools. I got promoted. I actually did my job on deployments, and I was fulfilled from basically April of 2011 until I left in March of 2017.
Just best time of your life.
Best time of my Army career.
I got some questions about that. We're going to take a short break real quick, and then we'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, we're back. I was going to talk to Mark. I just had questions about when you were saying you were a group. What do you think the number one, for those that, another admin note, for those that don't know, the group we're talking about, instead of brigades, special forces units call themselves groups. The unit he's in is a chemical reconnaissance detachment. They are in support of the Green Berets, right? They are tasked out to support them for whatever mission they need. It's usually considered a very good unit. It's a little more high speed. You got to be airborne in order to get into those units. So what would you say is like that makes it like the best type of organization?
So from my perspective, I wouldn't say it's the best. It's better than a conventional unit. And that's nothing. Green Berets are awesome, but there's nothing special to get there. What I mean is you can be assigned their needs of the Army. Now, getting there, you do have to have pass a few gates. You have to be airborne qualified, and you have to have a certain GT. I think it's 100. It might be 110
Mm-hmm.
now. So that does kind of filter out some people who get there. Once you actually get there, though, as a support person, if you suck, they don't keep you around. You get pushed out pretty quick. And I did see that over the course of being there for 6 years. People would come, 74 Deltas. Um, and if they weren't there for the right reasons, like say they were just there to get the NCOER saying, hey, they were there, they didn't last long. I will say this while I was there for the mission, um, completely and truly. And that's why I think I succeeded there and did well. So basically, not trying to fast forward too quick, I went there as a leg specialist in April 2011. When I left in March of 2017, I was a staff sergeant promotable with 4 deployments under my belt,
Jeez.
multiple schools. And I mean, when I left, I was recognized by my battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Brinker. And something I have not seen since I left there 6 years ago is it just, to me, the rest of the Army, the conventional Army, does not treat or take care of their people the way the group does.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock at all on the conventional Army, because there's thousands of great and awesome leaders out there. But just my experience is that, hey, group for me was like, that was the high point of my career.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I was in group as well, just for a year. It was a short stint with COVID, but you do find that just the quality of life and the care that they have for making sure there's a billion different avenues of approach for people to get help and stuff, or for you to just accomplish the mission, is so much more emphasized there than everywhere else.
I'll say this, the missions weren't easy at all. But what made it easier to be there was you weren't micromanaged. You had a lot of leeway to get things done, and you had a lot of support when you had problems. And I'll say this, I was treated like, once I really I don't want to say got comfortable there, but once I really got to know my job well, I was treated great. And I have not had that since. And that's kind of something I yearn for. But at this point, I mean, I'm never going to go back to a group. I'm going to go to my next duty station or retire. But if you are someone who's not a Green Beret, especially for my 74 series out there, and you're looking to go to B group support, I would say absolutely do it. But you need to do it for the right reasons. You need to be there to support the guys on the ground. You have to support the mission. If you go there selfishly thinking, hey, you're going to get a few NCOERs and pad your records, you're not the right person for the job. But fortunately, I worked with some really great leaders and some people I still consider great friends and mentors too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So at this point, you get out of that unit and your morale is obviously just skyrocketed at this point. You're loving life. And then where did you go to?
Oh, I went to the fucking 82nd because I hope I don't get in too much trouble for this. So I had been operational for 10 plus years at that point, 6 deployments down. So the 1 deployment to Iraq, I did, 5 deployments at this point. 1 deployment to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan with group. I did a deployment to the Horn of Africa with group when they were going back to Africa. That started in about 2015, 16. And then I also did a JSET, which is a joint combined exchange training to Pakistan with group.
Nice.
Which is something not a lot of people ever get to do, which was awesome.
Yeah, I say that. I say nice because all I heard about were JSETs, and I just always heard how cool they were. They're basically like not war missions, but you're supporting another entity, like a country that's not visible, like he's talking about Pakistan, and I've heard of some other ones. I don't want to go too deep into the OPSEC of it because I don't know the rules, but I know there were a bunch of other JSETs with other countries that people don't know that there's wars going on or there's disputes. There's a lot of shit happening around the world, and it's just crazy to see, very, I imagine, amazing experience for you.
So going to Pakistan was wild. We flew from Fayetteville to JFK up in New York. JFK, 13-hour flight to Abu Dhabi. That's when it kind of got weird because you go from the basically westernized part of the airport in Abu Dhabi to everything's going to Pakistan or India. So we flew from Abu Dhabi to Islamabad, land in Islamabad, and it's like that scene in 13 Hours where it's like,
Oh yeah.
holy fuck. Imagine 3 white dudes on a plane with a bunch of people, a bunch of Pakistanis, and it's like they were glaring at us because they knew who we
Jeez.
were.
Yeah.
Nothing overt, but it was uncomfortable. And then we got picked up by our driver and basically our handler there, and it was awesome. We got to go to excuse me, Rawalpindi. It's basically the sister city of Islamabad, and we did some, I guess you could call it consulting for the Pakistani army.
Yeah.
And it was wild. I mean, outside the U.S. Embassy, which is one of the places we went, there was huge marijuana plants, literally weed
Just because
growing.
they can grow it there?
It was just growing everywhere.
Yeah, it's like a weed there. Yeah.
Like right outside the U.S. Embassy. So that was crazy. And I could say this isn't really OPSEC. We did not tell them we were NCOs. So it was a Green Beret at EOD Tech and myself. We did not identify ourselves as NCOs. You want to know why, Ben? Because NCOs in that culture are like second-class citizens.
Really?
Yeah, it's very officer-centric.
Driven? Yeah.
Yeah, because they take their lineage from like the British Army.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like one of the only big ones in the world that emphasizes NCOs a lot more than officers, right? Like NCOs do not that we're gonna get in the weeds here.
Oh, you're about to get in a really deep subject.
But like, U.S. Army, NCOs do 90% of the legwork. I would say I'll put that out there. I would say they do 90% of the legwork, and the officers kind of clean up and do the admin portion sometimes, or the make it look good section. Whereas the rest of the armies that I've seen, a lot of them are more officers do a lot of the legwork, and then the NCOs and enlisted trust in them. Like they have a lot of trust in their officers. Wouldn't you? How do you feel about it?
I don't know about that, Ben. When I saw the NCOs in Pakistan doing was basically the bitch work.
Yeah.
I don't want to call them like bitch boys, but that's what they were.
Yeah.
No, NCOs in the U.S. Army are given a lot of trust. We're put in some critical leadership positions. I don't want to get too far off the topic of this, but I have kind of seen in more recent years how I guess maybe our duties and our responsibilities have been degraded. But then again, I don't want to get too far off track.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. Me and Mark have a lot of conversations about officers and their roles in the Army.
No, just let me be just upfront and blunt about this. I've worked for some tremendous officers, even in this organization. My OIC Reed, fantastic guy. He's here for the mission. He's here because he wants to accomplish stuff, take care of his people, and get things done. But we've probably also seen officers who are just there to climb the ladder and get the next rank and don't really care so much about their people. And I don't really care for them.
Yeah. And it sucks because I think I don't know if I was talking to you about this or not, but in the civilian sector, you imagine guys that like they hate their bosses and stuff, but in the climate of that, the bosses take credit for all the good stuff and they persecute for the bad stuff. It's the same thing on our side, just the officers. Like I've had some that really take care of people and they make shit happen, and I've had some more often than not ones that are bullet chasing. Frankly, they're there to get a good award, and it's so frustrating that their job relies on that too. Like I don't condone it, but I understand where they're coming from. But God, it's frustrating to everyone in that organization.
It is. And I'm going to be very vague about this. Looking at your organization as an outsider, I've been here now. I'm coming up on 16 months. I'm about to leave this seat. I saw your organization go from being solid to just you guys just being in the shit, like to the point where I'm like, I called your company, which I won't name, the Few and the Proud, because
Yeah.
there was so few drill sergeants, and you guys were just getting shit on with no support. And I'm not trying to sound dramatic, but it fucking broke my heart as a senior NCO, because I listen to these guys and gals just bitch and complain and just day after day, just doing what needed to be done with no support. And there was nothing, and I'll be honest, there was nothing I could really do besides just, hey, come into my office. Here's the cold water. Like, talk to me, give them a little break and say, hey, brother, hey, sister, like, go out there and keep doing what you do. But I really did see that.
No, and we appreciate that because you know, I think anybody that's been in, when you have those people you can go to, I've had a couple in this unit that I've been able to. You close a door, you talk to them like a person, you bitch about life for a while, and you come out feeling better. It's not always it's probably not the healthiest, and it's probably not the most perfect thing to do, but in the moment, that's very helpful, and you remember those people for the rest of your life. You're like, man, I remember, shout out to Cisneros. I don't even know if she knows about this, but
Juanita.
yeah, Juanita Cisneros, one of the outstanding drill sergeants over in my unit. She would just come over and just chat with us about stuff, and she would help make it make sense, or just be like, that's terrible. We're here for you guys.
Bro, we're like the same age, and I looked at her as like my mom.
Yeah,
because even I would talk to her about stuff, and she would listen to me, and I'm like, she just had that, I don't know, that aura about her, but
yeah, she's like a caregiver. I don't know. She's just good at taking like empathy.
Yeah,
Empathy was her strong suit.
Oh yeah,
very good.
And there was even times, Juanita, I know you don't like to be called by your first name. If you ever listen to this, I appreciate the times you listen to me, and you sat in the same seat Ben's in now, and you would come in and unload on me, and it was great. We had Etch, same thing. A lot of great NCOs have come through, even officers too.
Yeah, I've had a couple here. But yeah, kind of went off on a rabbit hole, but that's just a good sum up of NCOs and officers with us. But anyway, you were at, you did all your missions and stuff with group. You get all this stuff going, and then, or after that, 82nd. You're in 82nd now.
So
what
yeah,
happens?
So I went to 1st Brigade 82nd, and I was a battalion Seaburn NCO. I really didn't do my job. It was kind of back to that big army, like, hey, like, I remember I first got there, they're like, oh, you're Seaburn, you're going to be the wash rack NCO. And like a year prior, I was basically in an 03 billet doing some important shit in East Africa. And now I'm like literally washing trucks down at the Fort Bragg wash rack, which it is what it is. It's it ebbs and flows. I had a really great senior NCO there, and I'm going to give him a shout out now. He's retired, Master Sergeant Matthew V. McKinney. You know who you are. Tremendous senior NCO, long time 82nd Airborne Division paratrooper. His son was actually in the 82nd when he was there. They were both in Afghanistan at the same time. Yeah, I think his son's coming here to Fort Leonard Wood. He's reclassing. Great senior NCO. I worked with really good NCOs at my side. Deanne Winter, she got out to be a veterinarian. Luisa Aribe, she's still in. She went green to gold. Sergeant Soto, he became he was a jump master at the time. Now he's master rated. He's back in the 82nd.
Yeah.
So really just great NCOs. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
there were some shitty times there, though. I won't get into those, but I just remember the good times. In fact, on my Facebook page, what's it called? The banner picture or the cover photo.
The cover photo, yeah.
That's actually my cover photo. Is that crew?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I think I think 82nd is probably like, as far as like morale and esprit de corps and all that type of stuff, I think that's probably, you'll find no greater pride in an organization beside
I
maybe
agree.
like maybe Rakasans in the 101st, but conventional army, I think there's so much pride and stuff there. It's awesome.
Look, for the conventional army, when it comes to the 82nd Airborne Division, I remember seeing private first classes who they could tell you about the World War II battles of the 82nd, where I was at in 1st Brigade in the 504th. You don't see that in the rest of the Army. I mean, you saw PFCs of Ranger tabs, expert infantry. I'm talking about the 11 Bravos, and then you saw like corporals as jump masters.
Yeah, it pumps you up.
It pumps you. It really does.
Yeah, all these dudes just getting after it.
Just getting after it every day. Like, damn. Like that's when I left there and went to Germany. I'm like, damn, I really missed that.
Yeah.
You don't realize it while you're there, then you're gone, and you're like, oh shit, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, they always say, what is it? Your best duty station is your next one in your life.
I'm not going to say that about Fort Leonard Wood, but
no. I'm living a nightmare. No. Where were you at in Germany though?
So I PCS to Germany in July of 2018. Mind you, I got promoted to Sergeant First Class in May of 2018. Never thought I would make Sergeant First Class. Never thought I would stay in past 3 years. But we skipped over my kids being born. Can I just go back?
Yeah.
So my son Liam, he was born October 4th, 2011. He's going to be 12 this year. My son Colin was born August 23rd, 2014. He was born about 6 weeks before I went back to Afghanistan for the second time. So basically, I leave. This kid is close to 2 months old. I come back and he's 8 months old, and I'm trying to find the picture. My wife has it somewhere where we're on Green Ramp. She's there. I came back April 2015, and I'm holding Colin, and he's looking at me like, who the fuck are you? And it was wild. But yeah, let's go to Germany. So July 2018, I go to Germany. Obviously, pre-COVID was great. And I was an instructor for 3 years there. I taught the Seaburn Defense course. So basically, for non-Seaburn soldiers, like 11 Bravos, 88 Mikes, they would come to my course. I would train them for 2 weeks about how to run a unit Seaburn program. And I loved it.
Yeah. I think those kind of gigs are cool because you just like, it's just a block of instruction that you're doing over and over. And it's like, that's my job, training people. That's what I do.
The great thing was, and I'll say this, I fucking hate when people waste time. So a lot of my time, I don't want to get specific, in certain training has been wasted. Where you get done basically at 13:30, but you have to fucking sit there till 17 because people are too afraid to let you go. The latest we stayed in the Seaburn Defense course was maybe 1600. Usually I tried to cover everything, have discussions, and get them out the door by like 14:30, 1500.
Yeah.
While still training them on everything they needed to know.
Yeah, because the 9 to 5 schedule is outdated and it does not apply to, we're like a service industry at this point. We're not pushing out consumer products here. We're training. So if you can get the training done in a reasonable time, get the fuck out of there. Like, you don't need to sit around all day for no fucking reason.
I think, Ben, the people who like stay are afraid, they're just, I don't know where that fear comes from. If I let my class, so I would train 16 to 20 soldiers. If I let them go and one gets a DUI, would I get yelled at? Maybe. It did happen once. I didn't get yelled at all.
Yeah.
Let them go on a Friday at like 14, and by 17, this kid was arrested. Got a call from my master sergeant like, hey, man, you know about this? No. It's like, all right, cool. Well, just send me the drop packet on Monday. And that's also leadership who was not about knee-jerk reactions, who understood. So I'll say this, if there's any senior NCOs listening now, fucking get away from the knee-jerk reactions. Figure out the situation first. Gather all the facts, and then react. Don't immediately just place blame, because to me that shit doesn't work.
They just did I think I read it like 2 years ago. They did an opinion piece in the Army Times, and it was literally about how the Army has this mentality of this old mentality of there is no room for mistakes. So when something happens, it is a chain of issues happening that caused it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not the case. People fuck up sometimes, and that's the way of the world. And it's so annoying to like, there was an instance here where some people screwed up, and it cost other people an entire night of not going to bed. They had to sit up and wait all night for these other people. That authorities got brought into it, all this stuff. Such a giant mass punishment. We talk about a lot in the Army. These mass punishment shits, though,
that shit's stupid, man.
And it doesn't work. It obviously doesn't work. If it hasn't been working for the past, what is it, 250 years, the Army, right? 250 almost. 1776.
Yeah, you're pretty close, man. We're at 245, 246.
Yeah, so like all that history, and we're still doing it, and the same issues pop up. You know why? It's because people are fucking people. I don't know. I get really mad about that kind of the knee-jerk reaction stuff, and the somebody fucked up. Well, why didn't you know about their issues? Well, because I'm not their mom. Like, I'll talk to them, and I talk to people personally, but I can't control every aspect of someone's life. I don't know. So you have your kids, though. You had your son in 2011, you said?
Yeah, that was when my wife got pregnant. That was like late January 2011, and then he was born 2000. Yeah, a little bit later on. Sorry, I was looking at my phone. Let me put that fucking thing away.
Oh, you're good.
So yeah. By the way, having kids in the Army is not easy. Having a family. So we were dual military for a little while, and I'll say this: we figured out quick that was not going to work. So my wife actually ETS'd. It'll be 10 years since she ETS'd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how my wife was too. She did the same. She was in, and then she got out.
Oh, and by the way, if you're out there dual military, you have my hat goes off to you, because that is not easy. So this is going to sound real lame. Thank you and your spouse for their service.
Yeah.
Appreciate you a lot.
One of the hardest juggling
absolutely.
acts I've ever seen. Do you think that gave you more purpose while you're in? Like, it's like, now I have, someone I'm caring for. I'm going to do the best I can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you're over in Germany, you're doing this. How long are you in Germany for? 3 years?
3 years. So first year and a half, badass. And then what happened? Oh, COVID. So I'll say this, being in Germany, the Germans were real quick with that. Everything locked down, the masks went on, and I think they handled it well. I'll just be honest about this now. I volunteered to get the vaccine. A bunch of us did. And actually, the vaccine made me sicker than COVID. And then I was real cool. I actually got COVID after I got the vaccine. Should I say that on here? You're going to edit that out.
I don't think anyone's monitoring my stuff. So we're good for now.
Hey, neither here nor there, but Germany was great. If you get the chance, especially as a young single soldier, go overseas. Go to Germany, Korea, Japan. If you get those opportunities, take it, because you're going to want to go back. I mean, my wife and I now talk about, God, if we could go back, we would. So let's go to July. Well, no, the marketplace. So this new thing for getting assignments in the Army comes about, called the marketplace. And at this point, I wanted to go back to Fort Bragg. I wanted to go back to Jump Master, which I had failed initially. I wanted to go back to either the 82nd or group and, do that, deploy again. I had a break for a while, and I was ready to get back into it. I was in great shape. What does the Army decide to do after I was an instructor for 3 years in Germany?
Fort Leonard Wood.
Send me to be an instructor at Fort Leonard Wood. I was not happy about it. Still not happy about it, but I got to get over that. and get to the NCO Academy. I had a really great sergeant major there and a great first sergeant. First Sergeant Jimenez, if you're listening, I love you, man. Sergeant Major Boroff, thank you so much for all the guidance you gave me. Sat down with Sergeant Major Boroff. He looked at my NCOERs and my record, basically said, "Hey, your branch failed you."
Yeah.
This is coming
Damn.
from an almost 30-year E9.
Jesus.
So there was a spot open here in the 84th Chemical Battalion to be the S3 NCO, and they said, "Hey, you're going there." This is going to be real funny. Sergeant Major Bell can corroborate this. I interviewed for the job, and she, like Sergeant Major Bell does, she was honest with me. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to do that. So I emailed her the next day. I was like, hey, appreciate the offer, but I'm good. Can you imagine how that went?
Yeah. No, you're coming.
I had a pretty in-depth talk with the regimental sergeant major where it was very one way, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
I texted her. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. And so January 2022, I reported here. And I remember the first time I met you, Ben.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No.
We were playing basketball at the court.
Oh, at the court?
NCO
Yeah,
PT.
yeah.
And you fouled the fuck out of me.
Trying to make baskets here.
Yeah. He hazed me.
I don't. Yeah. I'm gonna get. They just get a knock on my door tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, just like talk to you for a minute. No,
no, it was all
fun.
I
don't even remember that. That's great. That was the freak. Did we talk at all, or was it just?
No, we were talking shit. You and Jones, fucking whooping my ass. I'm all old and shit. Lazada's there, like. So we had this group of drill sergeants, from Bravo and Charlie, and gosh, you want to talk about just awesome, badass NCOs. Some of them are still here. A lot of them have PCS'd, but I'm just giving Ben shit now. I'm just going to talk about him for a minute. I see him with trainees. He's a drill sergeant. He does his drill sergeant things, but what I see with him is a lot of care for the soldiers, not just for their professional journey, but personally as well. He gives them a lot of advice. And I'll say this, when I was coming through, we didn't get that shit. It was like, hey, private, we're going to fucking train you and push you out the door. I never got to really know my drill sergeants on a personal level, which I guess you wouldn't at that time. But, and I'm not saying you know the soldiers personally, but I could see that you care about them, which is fucking great.
I'm pause for a minute and then we'll come right back. I just want to talk about it for a minute, but we'll pause for just a second. All right, I'm jumping right back in. I just wanted to keep my mind on track. So Mark was talking. I appreciate your words about me because that means a lot. That's kind of my mentality. I always heard now, the soldiers treat them how you want to be treated. And when I was a younger soldier, I'm not saying I had bad NCOs necessarily. But I did not get a bunch of personal development, and I think me and you, we both come up here and talk about the books we read, the podcasts we listen to, these interesting facts we found out. I think if you're not trying to better yourself, you become stagnant, and then you're not reaching that full potential that you do have. A lot of people have that way bigger expansion. They just aren't getting there. And that's all I want to do is try to make these privates at least be better. So when they get to their units, they always, Sergeant, he was the AIT platoon sergeant when I came through. I can't remember his name. Bald guy in group. Short guy. I can't remember his name. Anyway, very good NCO. But the best words he ever said were, when you get to wherever you're going to PCS, whether it's now or later, act humble, but like you've done the job before. And I'm like, that's such like a good, like, confidence and understanding, but willingness to learn are so key to just life in general. And like, I just want these damn privates to do better than what we had to deal with because I'm, I haven't even been in that long, but the Army is just now pushing for more spiritual, personal, physical development. And these privates coming out of the streets, they don't know about that shit. And why would they? You're 18. So I really like to engage on that level with them.
No, it's awesome that you do.
Yeah.
It's awesome,
I
man.
mean, it's the same thing you do to me when I come up here. Like, you're engaging. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Oh yeah, you're a big ass
So-
drill sergeant. You could whip my ass.
Yeah, but
man.
I mean, you do it with like everybody at the time. Everybody even knows. Hey, go see Mark. He's always fun to talk to. So like that's good.
That's the thing that's kind of gotten me in trouble over the years. Yeah, I'm a sergeant first class, but that's my rank. My name's Mark, and when I talk to my guys, I call them by their first name. And there's some folks who that really irritates the fuck out of them, and I'm absolutely not right in doing it. But at the end of the day, like my shit stinks, and I put my pants on one leg at a time. So don't forget, we're just people, man, and if you get the chance to not be a dick, don't be a dick.
Yeah, use it when needed.
Only when needed.
Yeah, only when needed. So that's a good little tangent right there. You get over here. At first, were you upset about, like, were you really pissed off, or did you know anything about it coming over besides what Sergeant Major Bell told you, or were you just like, fuck?
So I'll be honest, she didn't. She was like, look, we train all the 74 deltas in the Army, from enlisted, warrant officers. We're minimally manned, few resources, and we have this big ass mission. And I'm like, well, fuck. All right, we'll figure it out. And here's the thing: the machine keeps chugging along, some way, somehow. We fortunately, my time here in the S3, which by the way, S3 in the Army sucks. Even the best case scenarios, it sucks.
Yeah.
But I've worked with some really good first sergeants, and one not so good first sergeant. And it is what it is. You do what you can to get the job done. My first sergeant who was just in here, First Sergeant Hilt, she's badass. She sat down and like, hey, like we have this big competition coming up. Like, let's sit down and kind of just figure this out. And she was just sitting in my seat. And
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. And that's that collaboration. That's that mutual respect. That it's like, fuck, this is awesome. Then you come across people like, I don't know, they forgot where they came from. So I'll tell any young soldiers, senior NCOs, whoever listens to this, never forget where you came from in the Army. Stay humble. There's always someone out there who's better than you. I don't mean to go off on a fucking deep end there, man, but
it's so true of some NCOs and officers. When they make that higher rank, it's more about, I have this now, that means I have the power. And it's like, no, you should, in theory, gain that power from trust and mutual respect. That's how you get people to work for you competently and proficiently and without fail. And to just say, I'm a sergeant major, I'm a colonel, you're going to do what I told you to do. That's not the right answer.
It's an answer.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get a good result. So my time here is coming to an end. First Sergeant Hilt, when she steps out of the Alpha Company seat, she's going to take some leave and then take my position. I'm going to go to OTD and get ready to PCS to Aberdeen, Maryland, which will be my last duty station.
And then what you have 4 years left right now, or 3?
Ben, why are you adding years? I have 3.
I don't know.
I have. If you count CSP and PC and ETS leave, it's like 2.5.
Okay. So you're finally at that home stretch.
Yes.
And when you look back on all of it, are you like super happy with the choices that you made, basically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would do it all over again. No problem.
Yes. I'll tell you this. Fall 2017, early 2018, I was in a real bad spot, had some very serious mental health issues going on, which were addressed, which I received tremendous care for from um, one of the psychs at Fort Bragg. I'm not going to mention her name, but her, my battalion commander, they literally saved my life, man. Because there was stuff that had happened earlier in my career on my first deployment. Uh, I had kind of just buried, and I'll tell you this because you probably know, and the listeners, you can only carry that shit for so long before it eats you alive. And that's where I was at. So, uh, 2000, late 2017, it's like, hey, you're about to be a sergeant first class. They were going to send me to Korea for a year and right back to Fort Bragg to deploy again.
Ugh.
That would have been number 7.
Yeah.
At that point, man, my marriage was on the rocks. Did not have a good relationship with my young boys. And it was like, all right, cool. I'll go to Korea. We'll get divorced. And then I'll just come back here and you do your thing. I'll do mine.
Oh.
So Master Sergeant McKinney, I'm going to go back to him, was like, hey, ask about going to Germany to be an observer controller.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. So I hit up Branch and they're like, yeah, we have a spot open, but you got to be an instructor. I'm like, well, I'll take it. Can I take my family? Yeah. So I did that.
Yeah.
If I would have went on the path the Army was trying to put me on, I wouldn't be here talking to you and I wouldn't be married anymore.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to fight those things that you got to pick and choose your battles, but family, man, family and mental health, it's so fucking, I just went over this with Danielle in my last episode. It's mental health is still, I don't know if it's overlooked or what, but it's still kind of played to the side. But like, especially mid-career guys, it's not that I don't care, but new privates coming in, deal with those demons. But you're young, so people don't have an impression of you. Go get that help, because most of the NCOs now, that pretty much from me to Mark, that's fucking 8 years to almost 20 years. A lot of us have dealt with some shit, whether it was like personal or it was the Army having that effect on us. But people just go get some help. Like, you can go talk to somebody. You can try to work out a deal for a better duty station. Like, it doesn't always have to be about, I need to progress my career. Like, take care of everyone around you and your mental health, and then the rest of it will come.
I'll say this: the newer generation, they're not really doing deployments anymore, but that doesn't mean they're not bringing baggage in, because we all deal with stuff. But I'll say to my my peers who were in the GWAT, and I'm stealing this from a very famous podcaster, Andy Stumpf. God bless you, Andy Stumpf. You make my Mondays and Fridays. If you touch war, it's going to touch you back. For me, I was like, oh, that's small stuff. Not a big deal. But after a while, the things I went through started to eat me alive, literally. Drinking and just going down the rabbit hole of not doing smart shit. So I had a great wife and a great support system that pulled me back from the brink. And I still do to this day. And I know it's kind of cliche. It sounds lame, but reach out, talk to people. People will listen. If you don't find the right people, keep reaching out, keep looking. There's someone who's willing to help out. And that's why, especially for the drill sergeants here and the NCOs, even some of the officers, they come talk to me and I listen. And really, a lot of times, that's what people need. They need someone just to listen to them. So be that person. If you're in that position, just listen. There's not a whole lot you could do, but listening really does help.
Absolutely. Also, shameless plug for 988, which is the hotline for suicide and just depression hotline, basically, for veterans. Just 988 now. I didn't even know it changed. So, yeah, it's just so important. I think I've talked about it in almost every episode so far, but like, I really hope people get the help they deserve and that they can have someone in their lives that they can actually have those conversations with. So yeah, man, what advice would you give? I want something, if you could, like something good to tell new guys coming in, and something bad, like
All
a
right.
good piece of advice for them.
Good. Good piece of advice to new soldiers when you get to your first duty station. Find those solid NCOs who know what the fuck they're doing, and they'll stick out. How are they going to stick out? They're going to look sharp, they're going to know their jobs, and they're going to be humble and gravitate towards them. Stay away, and this is going to be an old saying. When you see like a 7-year specialist or a 5-year PFC, and they're talking about all this shit that sounds legit, they are fucking kryptonite. Stay away from them. Stay away from that 15-year sergeant who's overweight and is kind of a shitbag, because they're not going to help you. Gravitate towards those high-speed NCOs. You'll know who they are. Latch on to them. Learn everything you can from them and do good. At your first duty station, stay away from those shithole places, especially if you go to Fayetteville. They're still there on Bragg Boulevard. And stay in shape. Learn a lot. And just be open to experiencing new stuff. You're going to make some of the best friends you ever had in the Army or whatever service you go into. And the beginning of your career, honestly, is probably some of the best years. Because when you become an old, crusty senior NCO, you're like, man, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
When you peek behind the curtain.
I think those first years, it's so easy because you just show up and do your job and just do what people tell you, and then you're off like you're done for the day. You go do whatever you want. Like, but it's so fun. That's good though. That's what he just said to everybody was mentorship. That's what privates should be doing or hearing, and that's good. What piece of advice that, like, I don't mean bad advice, that's terrible, but like stuff that they should look out for that's negative?
All right. Something I've seen, and when I see it, I say some shit about it. If you see someone, especially an NCO, who's trying to get you to buy into some bullshit like, oh, hey, I could show you how to flip houses. Just give me $5,000. For one, that's fucking illegal. But two, like, this isn't a business enterprise that we're in. So if you get someone at your first duty station, and this has happened, they're like, oh, hey, let me take you to this used car lot. No, don't do that shit, soldiers. Stay the hell away from it. Like I said, gravitate towards those NCOs who aren't going to do that, who are solid. I would definitely say this. Drinking can be cool, but if you're doing it every night, that shit catches up with you. So watch how much you drink. And really, there's some opportunities now, like the expert soldier badge. Do it while you're young. Do airborne while you're young. Go to Ranger while you're young. Don't wait until you're my age to try to do it, because you're old and broke and not in the best shape you were when you were 19 and 20 years old.
Yeah.
So take those opportunities while you're young. Don't wait.
That's good, Mark. And then my last thing for you before we get off here, what recommendation for a movie? It's like motivates shit out of you, like badass, like what gets you going?
I was just talking to my old squad leader who's sitting outside. He's the acting sergeant major right now, Master Sergeant Gibbons.
Oh yeah.
Fury, man.
Ooh, good choice. Good choice.
Can I quote it?
Yeah.
Mistake.
Yeah.
The Army don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
You have the clerk type. So for people who don't know, they have this kid, Norman, who shows up. He's like, I'm a clerk typist. I have never seen the inside of a tank. And then John Bernthal's character basically says that quote, like, yeah, the Army doesn't make mistakes.
That's like one of the new, like back in the day, there's all those old like war movies.
Yeah.
That's like a new one that's like a legit war movie that's just awesome as fuck. Like,
fuck yeah.
The cast is there, the lines and shit. What best job I ever had.
Best job I ever had.
We quote it down at our office all the time. Like, shit's just going haywire. I'm just sitting there like sad as shit. Best job I ever had.
You see the stupid smile I have on my face right now? Because thinking back over my career, like the shitty parts, like first deployment in Iraq, there was a month of guard duty, basically 4 hours on, 4 hours off, and you're like, this shit sucks. And I remember sitting at the ECP to the cop with one of the tankers. I think he's still in Aikens, like freezing our fucking asses off because it was January. Like, man, this sucks, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like watching the sunrise in the desert is actually a pretty fucking cool thing.
Absolutely. Those little beautiful moments are just insane. But you're so like
miserable.
Yeah.
It's you're so miserable. It's fun. No, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And I was smoking cheap cigarettes back then too. Like, what could be better?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. All right, well, we'll get off here. Mark, I can't thank you enough for being on. It was an honor talking to you and stuff.
Ben, it's an honor talking to you. And when I see you and I see Drill Sergeant Lozada and I see Cisneros and the people who've come through, who are my peers and like, the younger NCOs like you, I have a lot of hope for the Army and just for the next generation. You guys are fucking solid. So when you're doing the next big thing, I mean, I'll be at home watching it on the news, but it's just joking, man. Yeah. You guys are great. Keep doing what you do.
I really appreciate that, man. Thank y'all for listening. We'll be getting more content out, but again, thank you, Mark. We'll see you guys later.